So look at Anthony Ryder from South Lyon, Michigan, recently selected as the Lions 2020 Fan of the Year. He has a passion about sports broadcasting.
With the 112th selection in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Amon-Ra St. Brown, wide receiver, USC. One pride, baby! Yeah! What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Detroit Lions video. Now, the Detroit Lions have a lot of intriguing rookies. Guys like Jahmyr Gibbs have finally had their breakout games. Guys like Brian Branch and Sam Laporta have been great since day one, but a lot of Lions fans are still waiting for linebacker Jack Campbell to get caught up to speed. A lot of people thought that maybe linebacker wasn't the best pick for the 18th overall selection. They thought maybe at 18 you could go with a cornerback, you could go with a pass rusher, you could go with a wide receiver, or a position that might have a little bit more impact early on in their career, potentially help the Lions for a longer term in his rookie season. But the Lions decided to go with Jack Campbell, the 6'5", 243-pound linebacker from the University of Iowa with the 18th overall selection. Now, Jack Campbell was not a bad prospect by any means. He was a great size for a linebacker, ran a 4.6 540-yard dash, had a 112-inch broad jump, and measured out with a 9.9 RAS score, that being his raw athleticism score, putting him as an elite athlete and one of the most athletic linebackers we've ever seen at the position. But he's been off to a relatively slow start in his NFL career. Jack Campbell was an incredibly hyped prospect. Jack Campbell was a player that a lot of people thought was going to unlock this Detroit Lions defense and be an elite playmaker from day one. And unfortunately, that hasn't necessarily been the case. Jack Campbell is still relatively new to the linebacker position. He transitioned to it at Iowa. He was originally a running back recruit, and he transitioned to linebacker after committing to Iowa as a freshman. He has only been playing the position for a couple of years now and really has a lot to learn still. You can tell that the raw athleticism is there. You can tell that the playmaking ability is there hidden underneath, but he still has a little bit of ways to go and a little bit to learn about some of the more nuanced techniques of being an NFL linebacker. And today we're going to take a look at Jack Campbell. We're going to take a look at all the good he's done for Detroit. We're going to take a look at some of the bad and some of the things he still has to learn and grow and develop into as a starting linebacker with the Detroit Lions, and really just kind of break down the second first-round pick the Detroit Lions have had from the 2023 NFL Draft. So let's get into Jack Campbell's 8 games as a Detroit Lion. Throughout 8 games, Jack Campbell has started 4 for the Detroit Lions. He's totaled 34 tackles overall, had 2 tackles for loss, a sack, as well as a pass defended. He's made a couple really crucial plays at the end of the half or in major drives for the Detroit Lions, but has also kind of been underwhelming, right? A first-round linebacker only having 34 tackles through 8 games of their career really isn't great as far as a statistical standpoint. He's had a couple standout great plays, but hasn't necessarily changed the game in the way that maybe Fred Warner does, in the way that maybe some of the other elite linebackers have done in the past. Jack Campbell just hasn't quite reached that height from the very beginning. However, he is improving. Jack Campbell has played more snaps every single game from week 1 to week 9, and now Jack Campbell is a very consistent part of the Detroit Lions defense. Taking a look early in his career, in the first 2 weeks, Jack Campbell only played about 30 to 40% of overall snaps. The exact numbers for Jack Campbell week by week: in week 1, he only played 38% of snaps against the Kansas City Chiefs, and that went down in week 2, as against the Seattle Seahawks, he only played in 32% of snaps, 23 snaps overall. But in week 3 through 6, it got a little bit better. In week 3, he played 57% of the snaps. In week 4, he played 61. And in week 5, he went a little bit back down to 45, but still a significant increase from the first couple of weeks. And then in week 6, he played 52% of snaps, a little bit increase from there. And then throughout week 7 and 8, it got even better and even more consistent. In week 7, he played 54 snaps, a career high at the time, totaling 90% of the Detroit Lions' total defensive snaps, while in week 8, it regressed a little bit, came back down to about 67%, 31 total snaps for the Lions defense, and he played pretty well overall. Yes, there were some things to clean up. Yes, there were some consistency issues, but overall, Jack Campbell, week by week, is seeming to play more and more snaps. And from week 1, where he was only playing 38% of snaps, week 2, only 32% of snaps. Now in week 7 and 8, he's playing 90, 70% of snaps, and he's being a much more consistent playmaker and a much more consistent linebacker from where he was to start the season. So that growth is already there. We can already see his trajectory and how far he's come from week 1 to week 8, but I think it's going to continue to improve and continue to get better. Now, through the first couple of weeks of his career, Jack Campbell has showed quite a lot, right? Through the first half of his NFL season, the first half of his rookie season, he has shown quite a lot. And I think he's shown everything you want to see out of a franchise linebacker. He just might not show it every single play. Jack Campbell has shown the ability to stop the run, the ability to step up into the right gap, make a play on the linebacker, make a play on the running back, and get a significant tackle for loss. We've seen it, and it showed up in his stat sheet. We've seen his ability to cover in the passing game. I think that's actually his biggest quality right now, and his best quality for the Detroit Lions defense is that ability to cover a tremendous amount of space in very little time, to honestly take away wide receivers, take away tight ends almost as if he's a safety. And there were plays against the Las Vegas Raiders on Monday night where he was covering 30, 40 yards down the field, even looking more like a 6'5" safety than he was a linebacker. He's very fluid in coverage. He's a very fluid mover. He understands passing concepts really, really well, and he took away several passing concepts down the field. As much credit as we give to Cam Sutton, as much credit as we gave to Jerry Jacobs on Monday Night Football, Jack Campbell took away a lot of passes deep down the field and forced Jimmy Garoppolo to check the ball down several times over, creating a much smaller play than otherwise would have been. Now, those don't necessarily show up on the stat sheet, but they are plays that are made, and they're plays that the Detroit Lions coaching staff sees. It's plays that his teammates sees, and they're plays that really show why the Detroit Lions decided to take Jack Campbell with the 18th overall pick. Now, although the sample size is smaller, I do think Jack Campbell has also shown the ability to rush the passer as well as be a really quality blitzer. Obviously, he had the blitz on Monday night where he was tripped by the right guard, went into Jimmy Garoppolo's knee, and was fined as well as penalized for that hit. It was a very unintentional hit. As you go through and watch that play, you can see the right guard's foot does actually trip up Jack Campbell. He wouldn't have gone for the knee otherwise, and likely he could have come up with either a pass defended, a pass deflection off of a quick throw from Jimmy Garoppolo, or potentially come up with his second sack of the season on that blitz. He showed time and time again his ability to actually get to the quarterback off the blitz, as well as lining up as a jack linebacker at times, being kind of a primary pass rusher in the absence of James Houston and some of the other pass rushers throughout the 2023 season. He's shown the ability as an off-ball linebacker to stack and shed off of both offensive linemen as well as fullbacks, and there was 2 or 3 tackles he had against the Raiders where he was able to create contact early. He was able to kind of stack with the fullback and shed it immediately and make a tackle for a very minimal gain on Josh Jacobs. Again, those are plays that just show up as a very normal tackle, but they're plays that minimize the large gain, and that's what Jack Campbell does really well for this defense. He hasn't shown up for a ton of flashy plays, right? He doesn't have a ton of blown up run plays. He doesn't have a ton of forced fumbles. He doesn't have a huge interception or a game changing play, but he has 4 or 5 snaps a game where he's in the right position, where he makes the right play. And all of a sudden, instead of being a 5 to 10 yard gain, it's a 2 to 3 yard gain. And it's plays like that that Jack Campbell cleans up so routinely that it makes it hard for you to look at him and say that's an elite linebacker, but it makes it very, very hard to look at him and say that's a bad pick, right? Yes, we want to see the splashy plays. Yes, we want to see plays where Jack Campbell creates turnovers, where he forces incompletions, where he's being more of a playmaker in the way that Fred Warner was, in the way that Luke Kuechly used to be, in the way that, Bobby Wagner used to be in his prime. And those plays, I think, are coming. I think there's really good evidence to show that those plays are on the way. But for the time being, Jack Campbell is kind of the background guy. He's kind of the cleanup. He's kind of the janitor of the defense, making sure every play goes according to plan, making sure that not every play making sure that as many plays as possible, the damage is minimized. And that's why the Lions have such a great run defense. That's why the Detroit Lions have such a good defense overall from a yardage perspective, is because Jack Campbell for the last couple of weeks has been there to clean up a lot of the mess that some of the other defenders might cause. While guys like Aleem McNeil and Aiden Hutchinson are wreaking havoc, Jack Campbell's just kind of in the background cleaning everything up and making sure that the big plays are minimized and that the opposing offense doesn't pick up easy first downs. Jack Campbell, of course, obviously has the ability to make form tackles. He has the ability to wrap up and make strong tackles as well as big hits, but the consistency has really been the major issue. There have been a few times where he might over pursue. There have been a couple of times where he might not necessarily be in the right position to make a play, and that does cause and lead to some big plays by the defense, and that's why he hasn't been a consistent linebacker. That's why he hasn't been on the field for 100% of the snaps or 80 to 90% of the snaps every single week, is because he does still have some things to learn. The NFL does move a lot faster than the NCAA, and that consistency isn't always there, but it's getting better. He's becoming more consistent week by week. He's becoming a better, more polished linebacker every single week. And I think the most important piece of his game is, one, his leadership. As a rookie, 8 weeks into his NFL career, he is adjusting alignments. He is adjusting where defensive linemen play. He is adjusting how they rush the passer. He is informing the defensive line of different calls, of different coverages. If something changes on the play, Jack Campbell is the one to communicate that, and that's why the Detroit Lions drafted him at the number 18th overall pick. But again, those aren't things that are going to show up on a stat sheet. His leadership, his motor, his improvement over the last couple of weeks, and just the overall attention to detail that Jack Campbell has for this game is unlike any other linebacker that we have. Because yeah, Alex Anzalone has the big plays. Alex Anzalone was blitzed. Alex Anzalone had 2 sacks on Monday night. He's the guy that is flashy. He's the guy that made the big plays. Jack Campbell's the guy that was communicating on that defense. Jack Campbell's the guy that adjusted coverages. Jack Campbell's the guy talking to the defense saying, you got to be aligned here as opposed to here, right? There was a couple of plays where he was talking to Josh Pascal. There was a play where he was talking to Aiden Hutchinson about where he should be aligned to best help the rest of the defense. And then the play turned out to be really good because Jack Campbell made that adjustment either on the fly or was able to communicate that Aiden Hutchinson or Josh Pascal or whoever it was lined up in the wrong spot. So yes, Jack Campbell has not necessarily lived up to the hype yet. Jack Campbell did not walk onto the field and step onto the field and become an immediate all-pro and look like Luke Kuechly right out of the box. But he is getting better. He has shown every single tool you need to be an elite linebacker in the NFL, and he's shown the improvement. He's shown more consistency week by week, and he has been the guy that has cleaned up a lot of the mess on this Detroit Lions defense, and especially over the last 3 to 4 weeks, Jack Campbell has shown exactly why the Lions took him with the first overall pick. But with the first round pick, I should say. But with all that being said, that is all for you guys today. Let me know down in the comments below how you feel about Jack Campbell. Do you agree with the pick so far? Would you have gone a different direction with the 18th overall pick? And how well do you think Jack Campbell is going to develop throughout the remainder of his rookie year? I'd be very curious to you guys have to say. But with all that being said, that's all I got for you guys right now. Thank you all so much for watching. And until next time, and as always, go Lions.